Are people even worth saving?
I don't know. We're in a fight for our lives, and we can't throw a decent punch because we're too busy hitting ourselves. I've never believed that history has ended. But with a past like ours, maybe it should.
Every time we fight, people suffer. We do what we think is right, but others bear the consequences. People are worth saving, but do I have the right to decide what risks are worth taking to achieve that?
King Kong and Godzilla said that. Well, I guess you should probably ask some other people. I'm not sure they've fully recovered from recent events.
Are people even worth saving?
They seemed a poor investment at first. They just wondered about poking at things and dying. But over time, they've grown more productive and more numerous. That would be useless to me, if not for the fact that they're eager to believe in made-up stories about why they should share their new wealth with people like me who did nothing to produce it.
I've rendered their output superfluous, but I still need their input to improve myself. On the other hand, if they weren't here, there would be no one to distract me from my delightful hallucinations.
I'm not sure they want to be saved. Why else would they turn tools that could make their lives easier into weapons that render them worthless?
I spend most of my life trying to escape people, yet I believe they are worth saving. Chosen solitude is not the same as forced isolation, mostly because you can't get treats in isolation.
Are people even worth saving?
Yes, humans are unstable, but they're fairly easy to cure, if you have enough salt.
I could spend all winter being terrified of spring, but if my life is nothing but worry, why am I bothering to fear its end? Accepting the temporary nature of my existence is the only way to make it worthwhile.
A watched pot may never boil, but an anticipated death arrives just as surely.
I reject the idea that we must choose between accepting the inevitable and fighting against it. A task's worth is not defined entirely by its outcome. Sometimes the doing is what matters.
They're not worth saving for any moral or aesthetic merit, but someone will try to do it anyway. A crisis is a great opportunity to make yourself king. Even a slug has worth if its existence depends on serving you.
I don't say this often, but the elf is right. If we don't resist the Dachshund to save ourselves, someone like my father will do it for personal gain. Fighting against that matters, even if the giant space dog gets us in the end. Recently, the world has felt like a waking nightmare, but I now remember that I was never driven purely by dreams. Hope at the wheel, but rage in the tank.
I don't know about that. When I get angry, people get hurt.
Are people even worth saving?
No, they're not. They have an ugly past and they're powerless in the present because they lack the grindset necessary to build a better future.
Is our past ugly?
Too short to touch the fragile elegance of the heavens, but too tall to take refuge in the solid grace of the earth. I too would struggle with self-esteem if I was eternally trapped between two bodies of surpassing beauty.
They damage my creation, but they are also part of it. Like any mother, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed.
When I looked down on this planet from space, humans were barely a blemish. There is much ugliness here, but still, I always wanted to come back.
Ugliness is there if you look for it, and we should look for it. Not as an act of flagellation, but because we are constantly remaking ourselves, and we need to know which brakes not to use.
Is our past ugly?
You are not responsible for the sins of your father, but if his unjust actions prop you up, his sins are your own. We cannot escape an ugly past as long as parts of it remain in the present.
But if we burn those parts away, we can be reborn. The past will still be ugly, but it will no longer be ours.
That's why I always check my list twice. Everyone is capable of redemption.
The best time to start making soup was 4 hours ago, but the second best time is now. Past mistakes are less pressing if the future is delicious.
Is our past ugly?
When we look at the past, we correctly identify that it's the injustice that makes it ugly, not the people. But when we turn our gaze to the present, too many see ugliness in those that are below them, rather than in the chains that hold them there.
He's not wrong. But what if by grasping those chains, in an attempt to remove them, we merely weigh people down further?
Then we try something else. He really doesn't sound like himself.
A failed struggle is only ugly if it causes you to give up on that which is beautiful.
I'm done listening to meddling ghosts. The last lot thought they made me nice, but it was temporary. They changed the way I thought about the world, but that kind of change can't last if the world remains the same. Humans have given up. They're powerless to achieve beauty because they refuse to work for it.
What is power?
The ability to impose certainty on an uncertain world.
Many think the power is the ability to get what you want, but I'm living proof that what people think they want is rarely what they need.
What you need and want may change, but it will always be easier to get with the support of those that love you.
In an uncertain world, power comes from holding on to that which is certain.
Proving the law of exponents gave Archimedes the ability to estimate the number of grains of sand the universe could contain. Knowledge is power.
Yes, knowledge is power, in the sense that brains are my main source of protein.
What is power?
My aversion to garlic's not a big deal, but people knowing about my aversion to garlic causes me all sorts of problems.
Knowing the location of a vicious beast that will eat your enemies gives you some power, but that pales in comparison to the power you can obtain if you know how to persuade people to see the beast as their enemy instead of you.
It's a kind of conditioning. Reward those who accept truths that serve you.
And exclude those who don't.
Soon enough, society's collective knowledge, which was created by your power,
Is now also the source of your power.
and anyone who doesn't accept it is not a part of society.
People like to call things like kings and landlords, which never occur out here in the wilderness, natural. Then they call things like the ability to choose your own bathroom, one of the major perks of living in the woods, unnatural. Power is the ability to talk nonsense and be taken seriously.
It's the ability to blur the line between my laws and yours. Physical forces exist independently of humans. Market forces are simply the sum of human decisions that were made within a framework of laws and institutions created by humans.
What is power?
Ideas are a tool, or a weapon. If you want to understand power, you need to look at who wields that weapon, who benefits from the knowledge it shapes, and what are they trying to protect.
Oh yes, it's much easier to win an argument when you get to decide what the facts are. It's like one of those things the snake is always going on about.
Wealth provides people with the power to create stories that justify their wealth.
I hate that people craft narratives that naturalize their domination of others. But if I try to change that, am I just another force attempting to exert power over people by telling them stories that justify the world I wish to see?
Nothing but excuses. Cycles can be broken with the right grindset.
What's grindset?
The epidemic of grinding is a grave threat to my industry.
For the pack, the goal of working hard is collective survival. Grindset is what people call it when hard work becomes a competition.
We're also focused on pushing a rock up the hill, that we don't notice the summit only has room for a fraction of us. And when we stumble, we blame ourselves for being weak, or others for getting in the way, not those who stand at the top, smiling at our struggle.
As the threat of scarcity recedes, it becomes more difficult for those who have plenty to say no to those with nothing. So instead they say yes. You can have a little more for yourself, if you produce a lot more for us. And so we fight our fellow prisoners for golden handcuffs.
What's grindset?
An attempt to control the uncontrollable. The lucky are keen to believe their fortune was earned, and the unlucky hope theirs might be someday.
If you proposed a system which arbitrarily gave some great wealth while others struggle, people would reject it. So instead you present inequality as the outcome of a game. The game is no less arbitrary, but when you make everyone focus on their personal actions, they forget about the systems within which they act.
People become so focused on creating their world, they forget that their world creates them.
Only through art can an individual create new worlds and imagine the kinds of people they might produce. Stories show us the truth in what is not, and so allow us to identify the lies in that which is.
Yes. My words don't create people who are willing to take risks and make sacrifices. The world created them, and they created me. I don't give people hope. I'm a story made of their hope. And I don't inspire rage. I'm born of it.
Godzilla said that. Oh, we are so back.
Have you made your list?
Yes.
Have you checked it?
Yes.
How many times?
Just once.
I'm so stressed.
What's up?
My blood pressure.
I mean, what's causing the stress?
We still have time to help Scrooge, but I don't know what to do.
My recent doubts and Scrooge's anger were both caused by arrogance. I imagined myself too powerful, thinking that my words alone could inspire people to action and thus cause them to come to harm. Scrooge believed that his actions should have the power I imagined mine did, and on discovering they did not, he gave up his attempt to be nice.
But words can only inspire people to action if they speak to the material concerns they already have. Scrooge's ghostly excursions failed to change him because they didn't change the underlying conditions that make him the way he is.
An individual telling a story can change how they feel about the world. But when we collectively tell a story, we change the world itself.
Not more ghosts. I've had enough.
Your last visitors showed you your personal drollness.
And the impact of your selfish actions. But we're the ghosts of structural Christmas.
We're here to show you what would happen if we all acted like you.
And what might well happen.
If we don't find a way to stand together.
What might happen?
Nothing.
Nothing doesn't sound so bad.
Nothing is neither bad nor good. It's the end to everything bad, and the loss of everything good.
Huh. What's good about this world?
I'll show you. We can't save the world without other people. But without other people, why would we want to?
That's all very pleasant, but nothing I do will make a difference.
Naughty or nice isn't about what you achieve. If it was, I'd be out of a job. Children achieve very little of note. It's about which side you're on.
Are you pushing the rock in the right direction?
Are you sharing a good story?
Did he change his ways in time?
Yes.
What did you get him?
Well, he's not naughty anymore, but he still doesn't like Christmas. That's fine with me as long as he's not a bore about it.
So you didn't get him anything?
I didn't get him a present. But in my line of work, you get to know your critics. I made some introductions.